And today, we're taking on a pretty critical mission to understand the unique impact of one advocate, Kacee Barnes, and her work raising awareness for hydrocephalus, all through the lens of her own life.
That's right. And just to be clear, this isn't, a purely medical deep dive into the condition itself, though we'll definitely touch on the realities of it.
Sure.
Our focus is more on the mechanism. I mean, how does a personal story like Barnes become a tool for large-scale understanding, for support, and for real advocacy? We're trying to extract the core insights on how vulnerability can actually change how a chronic condition is seen and managed.
And the centerpiece for all of this is her book, Hydrocephalus and Kacee, A Journey of Awareness and Hope. So our goal for you is to get past the summary, to really gain a thorough understanding of the realities of living with this, not through, clinical notes, but through the detailed daily life of someone who navigates it every single day.
It's the ultimate shortcut to informed empathy, really.
Okay, so let's unpack Kacee Barnes' primary motivation. When we first look at it, it's clear she's using her story not just to, document her life, but has a very deliberate strategy for public good. Her main goal seems straightforward.
Right, to increase awareness and understanding of hydrocephalus.
Exactly. But she immediately adds this deeper, more human layer to it.
Yeah, and this is what's so fascinating. The primary audience isn't necessarily, the general public, but it's often other patients and their families. Barnes is trying to help others feel fundamentally less alone.
Less isolated.
Yes. Think about it. Someone gets a new diagnosis for a complex, maybe even invisible condition. They get a clinical report, maybe a pamphlet. It's just overwhelming and honestly pretty devoid of hope.
Oh, absolutely. It's clinical, it's sterile, and it's frankly terrifying.
Precisely. The source material really emphasizes how incredibly isolating these conditions can be. So Barnes just steps right into that void. The shared experience she offers lets people find this immense comfort and strength just by seeing their own journey mirrored in her pages.
I love that.
It's the difference between reading a map and having a guide who's already walked that treacherous path.
That's a great analogy. So the book, Hydrocephalus and Kacee, it isn't just an autobiography, it's really functioning as an invitation.
An invitation, yeah.
It's inviting the reader into this world where their symptoms, their worries, all their daily struggles, they're validated, they're normalized. It's a direct route for anyone, a patient, a family member, an ally, to gain knowledge quickly and just feel seen.
And this is where that personal narrative offers something unique, something that general medical literature just can't touch. I mean, medical summaries are essential for treatment, of course, but they rarely inspire you to endure.
No, not at all.
Barnes offers this crucial layer of hope, of encouragement. She doesn't just describe the shunt. She describes the nervous feeling before a checkup or the frustration of a headache that just won't quit. Medical texts tell you what happens to the brain.
Right.
Barnes tells you what it costs the person, and maybe more importantly, how they keep going. That emotional texture is what pushes a reader to start looking for support systems.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, so comfort and validation are powerful, but they don't change policy, they don't change funding. So let's pivot a little into the core content of her work, because this is where the story shifts from, personal reflection to real actionable advocacy.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, what specific knowledge does Barnes share? The book dives deep into the daily challenges and triumphs of living with hydrocephalus.
And this is the real meat of it. The narrative isn't just broad strokes. It gives you this unique perspective by detailing the nuances, the little things that define life with this condition. For instance, patients with hydrocephalus often depend on shunts, which can malfunction.
Right, that's a constant worry.
It is. So the book takes you inside that cycle of recurring surgeries, the constant fear of shunt failure, and the cumulative impact of having multiple brain surgeries by the time you're a young adult.
That kind of detail is just so necessary to move past a surface-level understanding. We're talking about living with chronic uncertainty. So the triumph isn't just, hey, I survived a surgery.
No, it's, I learned to cope with the knowledge that the next medical crisis could be right around the corner. That's the real triumph.
Right.
And the challenges go way beyond the purely medical stuff. Barnes's account probably covers all the practical difficulties, the chronic fatigue that affects your education, the need for these complex, individualized education plans, IEPs in school.
And the social stigma, too.
Yeah.
Having a disability that's often invisible.
Exactly. These are the textures that a clinical summary just skips right over.
I think we need to stay on that education part for a second because that's a practical thing most people would just miss. If a child with hydrocephalus is constantly dealing with fatigue or recovering from a procedure, their whole academic path is different.
Completely different.
And the book highlights the triumph of just successfully navigating the school system, of advocating for the accommodations you need. That's a huge win.
And that win becomes a model for other families. So when you pull out these specific struggles, the frequent need for imaging scans, the bureaucratic fights with insurance companies, the need to find a proactive neurosurgeon, you start to understand why Barnes constantly highlights two things as absolutely critical.
Which are?
The importance of sustained support and aggressive advocacy.
So it sounds like she's showing us that these two things, they aren't just like nice bonuses, they are essential tools for survival.
They are. And this specificity tying the daily challenges directly to the need for specific kinds of support is what makes this form of awareness really stick. And if awareness is just general, let's be aware of this condition, it's easy to forget.
Sure, it's abstract.
But if you tell the story of a child struggling to pass a test because of post-surgical cognitive fatigue, and then you show how advocacy got them the tutoring they needed, that story becomes a compelling blueprint for action. It's not an abstract problem anymore. It's a specific barrier that was overcome by mobilizing resources.
Okay, let's pull the lens back a bit now.
Yeah.
So what does this accumulation of all these personal stories mean for the wider community? Barnes is clearly aiming for something much bigger than just connecting one reader to another.
Oh, absolutely.
She wants to build a tangible community of understanding and support that reaches into the medical world, maybe even the legislative world.
That is the essential societal impact. And it all hinges on reducing stigma. Barnes believes that these open, detailed conversations about the realities of hydrocephalus are vital because they directly help to reduce stigma and aggressively promote empathy.
Okay, let's pause on that, though. How exactly does sharing personal details, sometimes really painful ones, how does that translate into reducing stigma on a large scale?
That's a great question. Stigma often comes from fear of the unknown, right? Or worse, from this assumption that a condition is simple or, easily manageable.
Right.
By giving you the granular human details of daily life, the pain, the unexpected crises, the cognitive struggles, Barnes just removes that assumption. She humanizes the condition. It makes it impossible for the public or for doctors to treat the person as just a diagnosis or a collection of symptoms. It forces genuine engagement.
And that deeper empathy then drives the outcomes that the source material talks about. The conclusion is pretty clear. Increased awareness leads to better resources and support. And we're talking about tangible, real-world changes that really impact quality of life.
And this is the so what moment for you listening. We've established that awareness gives comfort, sure, but its ultimate job is to drive the allocation of resources. The material emphasizes that these resources are essential for managing what it calls the dual burden of chronic illness.
The dual burden. Okay, tell us more about that. What are the two main areas where that support is concentrated, based on what Barnes talks about?
So the first area is managing the emotional aspects. This is the need for mental health support to cope with chronic pain, the uncertainty, the grief over opportunities you might have lost because of the condition. Support here looks like specialized counseling or peer-to-peer mentorship or, local support groups.
Kind of like the communities Barnes is trying to build?
Yeah.
And the second area, the practical side.
Managing the practical aspects. And this is where advocacy really shines. It means navigating the Byzantine world of insurance coverage for specialized shunts, securing necessary medical equipment for your home, ensuring that schools and workplaces provide reasonable accommodations.
So when Barnes talks about how hard it was to get a certain treatment covered, she's not just complaining.
Not at all. She's providing testimony. Testimony that fuels legislative advocacy for better patient protections down the line.
It sounds like the book is basically a catalyst. It's using this emotional resonance to achieve like a logistical victory. It moves from I feel so alone to we need better funding for this specific piece of equipment.
Precisely. And that requires a mobilized community, the very community of understanding she set out to build in the first place. If the stories aren't told, the practical needs just stay invisible to legislators and to funding bodies. Kacee Barnes's personal history essentially provides the evidence base for practical action.
So if we synthesize this entire journey, we can see the blueprint pretty clearly. Kacee Barnes uses her detailed personal story of daily challenges and triumphs, everything from shunt malfunctions to navigating school, to educate, to reduce stigma, and to drive community support. She turns her individual reality into a collective tool for improving resources.
And if we connect that to the bigger picture, the sources really highlight that telling the story is the lever that gets the whole machine started. Awareness is necessary, of course, but the support systems that come from it are what manage that daily, dual burden, the emotional and the practical reality. Barnes shows us that the eloquence of the patient can be one of the most powerful tools out there.
That brings up a final kind of provocative question for you to think about. Barnes's work is so effective because she's able to articulate her journey with such detail, such compelling honesty. But if empathy and resources rely so heavily on these deeply personal, well-told stories, what happens to the funding and support for conditions where the patient's less able, or maybe just less willing, to share their story? Are we as a medical community building systems that maybe rely a little too heavily on the eloquence of the afflicted?